Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA Daily. On today's show, is LeBron James showing his age, or is this just his new role with the Lakers? Meanwhile, the Magic are moving up the standings in the Eastern Conference. Have they turned their season around? And the Nuggets face yet another injury to a starter. It's Locked On NBA Daily. Let's jump in.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your podcast app, thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com today to get started. I'm Wes Goldberg. Today, we're talking about whether the Magic are any good and more injuries to the Denver Nuggets. We're doing it with the help of Locked On's local experts. I have two of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast, senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore. Matt?
You know, popular trope in sci-fi and fantasy fiction is that this idea of there being some sort of special lineage that passes down through you, and you have special abilities because of who you. The Nembhard family just cook, like that's like their special abilities. Ryan Nembhard just comes in that game last night, roasts the Nuggets' horrific defense, but he's genuinely good, man. Like Ryan Nembhard's good, Andrew Nembhard's good. Be a Nembhard in your work.
From the Locked On Pacers podcast, he knows a thing or two about the Nembhard family. It's Tony East.
Yeah, it's crazy watching Ryan and seeing how many of their little mannerisms are exactly the same in the way that they play basketball. It's a delight. And yes, I love to see a Ryan Nembhard breakout. He looks great.
Let's start today by talking about the Lakers, who were going for their 8th straight win last night, and instead they get blown out by the Phoenix Suns. Dillon Brooks was trash-talking LeBron James. LeBron James barely extended his double-digit scoring streak, and a weird box score for LeBron in this one. 10 points on 3 for 10 shooting. In the 5 games since he's returned to the Lakers lineup, and he's missed a couple here due to maintenance, he's averaging 15 points per game on 46% shooting, 7.2 assists, and 4 rebounds. Matt, is this age catching up with LeBron, or is this just him getting used to a different role?
I mean, it's age. Like it's age. Like no one, Father Time's undefeated, and I think look, if part of this is also there's what you can do. And there's what you can do consistently. Like if they were like, we need you to score 20 points, LeBron would be like, okay, like you can reach that. You can level up and reach that, I think, as you get older. But at his point in this career, it's not as effortless. Like everything in the NBA, and this doesn't get talked about enough, is an effort management over 35 minutes for a lot of the major guys. If you're like a role player, it's about, staying locked in and focus on the things that you got to do. But if you're a star player, it's about managing your energy, offense to defense, and being able to execute as you're working and thinking through the game. And so, this is going to be like the worst season of LeBron's. He's 41. Like for the love of God, like he's 41. It's fine. He can still have great games, and every time he has a great game, it's going to be like, oh, y'all said he was washed. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, he's not washed every night. But he's going to be washed like 30 to 40% of the time, and that's okay.
I can't say I have a reference point for what a player returning from sciatica in the NBA is supposed to look like. If that alone, it makes this a tricky conversation to have. That's a very, like, to your point, old man injury, right? Father Time catching up to him via that is, in fact, influencing his performance right now. It's not lost on me, though, that this is by far the lowest on the totem pole for his team he's ever been, right? Like even last year before they did the Luka trade, he was the guy. And now Luka's obviously number 1 and Reeves is just balling. I mean, he's like all-star consideration, no doubt. All-NBA might even be on the table. He's averaging 28 points per game. Like LeBron should be deferring to these players. So there is certainly a role element to any, to Wes's point about a double-digit scoring streak. Like there should be a point where he should be deferring to those two. Those two get in the lane and are the engines that make the Lakers offense really hum. LeBron's ceiling as an offensive talent can be as high as those guys. It doesn't have to be right now. So it's not shocking to me that he is taking some sort of backseat, but it is, I think, a combination of, oh, wow, Reeves is doing an incredible thing every night. And this guy just had freaking sciatica and he's 40 billion years old.
It's his by far the lowest usage rate of his career so far. It's only been 5 games. To both of your guys' point, he's been out with sciatica. He's working his way back in. It's a kind of a new hierarchy right now with the Lakers. I think all of us are probably on the same page of we're not rushing to too many judgments, but again, he's really old now for an NBA player, and to think that he's going to be what he was probably is not accurate. Let's talk about the winning side of this game, though. The Phoenix Suns, led by Dillon Brooks. It was Dillon Brooks trash-talking LeBron James, as he likes to do when he plays LeBron James, or any player really, but especially LeBron. And he had 33 points in this game. Let's go to Locked On Suns for the winning angle.
Know exactly what they're doing. And their identity defensively is tenacious, physical, and it doesn't matter who goes out. And part of that is led by Dillon Brooks. 85% of Dillon Brooks is freaking awesome. He is going to change the culture. He's going to play with 200% effort every single night. He's going to fight the opposing team's player every night. But over the last couple of games, you got kind of the 15% of Dillon Brooks where it's like, hey man, maybe don't shoot that really difficult shot. Hey, maybe defer to Devin Booker a little bit. Tonight wasn't one of those nights. You were back to 85% Dillon Brooks. The 15% is going to show up again, and that's totally fine because the 85% that you get from Dillon Brooks largely outweighs the 15% where he's kind of shooting you out of games.
Matt, thoughts on Dillon Brooks' impact in Phoenix? I know you've liked this Suns team for the last couple of weeks. We've been talking about it here and there on the show and in our text thread here, but the 85-15 Dillon Brooks role that he came up with too.
Yeah, that's how it feels when you are new to the Dillon Brooks experience. Right. And like, look, I like Dillon, and I thought he got unfairly scapegoated by Memphis, acting like he was the problem. Now, Dillon was a problem for Memphis. He took bad shots, he missed a lot of shots, and he ran his mouth in ways that his checks couldn't cash. And then he ran from media and being held accountable for it. Like, none of that was good. That's also like he and Ja fed off each other in bad ways. Okay. It was better in Houston, and he was really successful there. Like, Houston fans have nothing bad to say about Dillon Brooks, and Suns fans are getting something similar. The big thing here is just, if you can keep an eye on the overall, the big picture, then you'll come out of it being like, I like having Dillon Brooks around. The problem is when you lose and he runs his mouth and gets into distract, because there are times when he chirps so much that it causes these turns in the game. Like, there's an altercation and both teams, like Dillon's team is winning, and then he goes too far and they're yapping at each other, and then the other team gets fired up, comes back and wins. And you're like, Dillon, if you had just like kept it at an 8 instead of an 11, they don't get back in that game. I agree with Ben that like the overall positive, that having Dillon Brooks is an overall positive. And I do think that people that were like, he's going to wind up in China after his Grizzlies deal expired, need to really re-examine like how they look at this league. Dillon Brooks is a good NBA player. Those guys will have a job as long as they are not an off-court distraction. And Dillon's honestly not. He's an on-court distraction. And having those guys is, I'll say this, you don't want zero of Dillon Brooks either. You can have not enough Dillon Brooks in your team. You can have too much Dillon Brooks in your team. Right now, the Phoenix Suns have the right amount of Dillon Brooks.
It's rare that non-star players can be this culturally impactful on teams, but every Dillon Brooks team hits the same identity. And I think that that is very telling of who he is and how he plays and all the things that come with Dillon Brooks. And the Memphis flameout was obviously very dramatic, but Houston was like, yeah, this is great. And pre that flameout, Memphis was like, sweet, we like this guy and we'll pay him. And now the Suns are benefiting from it. I think to Ben's point about this 85-15 rule, the 15 has to exist for Dillon Brooks to be Dillon Brooks and to have that cultural impact where there's some games you're like, come on, man, like maybe tone it down a bit, but that's who he is, right? And everybody kind of follows suit with that night in, night out, and sometimes a good way. Like Devin Booker gets hurt and they're still fiery, and Colin Gillespie's awesome, and this team is playing hard every single night. Like Dillon Brooks is a huge part of that being possible for all these guys.
Denver could really use Dillon Brooks.
Yes.
On the flip side of this, Tony, with how much the Pacers chirped last year in the playoffs and how mad they made everybody, you had Dillon Brooks to Indiana, and that's too much. Like
much.
that would be too much. They would go off the rails. Do you agree?
Yeah. They had enough. I mean, they had James Johnson to be their culture setter yapper guy, right? They didn't need a second one. Now they could use Dillon Brooks a little more this year, maybe.
It's a really interesting point, right? Like how much Dillon Brooks is too much Dillon Brooks, and for the Suns last year they had 0 Dillon Brooks, and nobody on that roster was any Dillon Brooks, and now they added Dillon Brooks, who is the most Dillon Brooks by definition, and now they're pretty okay. But add like a Nesmith to that Phoenix Suns roster, and it might be too much. You might go over the edge on the Dillon Brooksiness of that team, and that's ultimately what happened to Memphis. But let's talk about the Magic. They've won 8 of the last 10 games, including an ugly win over the Bulls last night. How have they turned their season around? It's coming up next here on Locked On NBA Daily. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into that moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly, player props update as guys heat up. You can even bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, so can you. To Locked On NBA Daily, the best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube. We air Mondays to Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcasts. The Magic beat the Bulls last night to win their 3rd straight game. It's their 6th win in their last 7 games. They're 12-4 since a 1-4 start. They're up to 5th in the Eastern Conference standings. Let's hear from more from Philip Rossman-Reich over at Locked On Magic.
As Desmond Bain said after the game, when I asked him this, being able to will yourself to victory in this moment in a game like this, that's what separates the good teams from the great teams. That's what separates being a nice playoff team to a team that can go deep into the playoffs. And it is just early December, but these lessons are going to be valuable.
Tony, the Magic had to come back from 15 points down. It was kind of an ugly game, and yet they get the win. Another win in a streak of wins here. Have the Magic turned their season around, and if so, how?
Yeah, they finally figured out that ball that they all throw around to each other, they need to put it in the basket every so often. And at the start of the season, they were decidedly not doing that. And since then, they have been doing that. Like, if you told me the Magic had the 9th best defense right now, I'd be like, oh, man, that's like not very good. Like, they need to be top 5, top 3 on that end to kind of go with the identity that they've had. But they're top 10 in offense. Look at the Orlando Magic go, folks. They're scoring points at this time, and it's only 9th, but like that never has been the Orlando identity. And they started slow on that end, and everybody was like, oh man, is Jamal Mosley cut out to do this? Can he actually coach an offense? This isn't good. And once they actually got reps with the new team, and like, yeah, they're working in Bain. They're also working back in Suggs and like all their new stuff. They've actually figured out how to be cohesive on that end of the floor. Bain's been on an absolute heater the last couple games. Like, they look competent on that end of the floor. I don't remember the last time the Magic looked. I mean, I think people would say it's over a decade ago that they looked this good for any stretch of time on offense.
They actually have guys hitting 40% or better from 3, which is a nice
all right
shift in life. Including, by the way, Wendell Carter Jr. on 2.8 attempts per game is shooting 46% from 3. That's actually the secret here is the role players. So they're getting really good minutes from Anthony Black, and they're getting good minutes from Jet Howard when he plays, and they're getting good minutes from Tristan Da Silva, and they're getting good minutes from the wings are the guys that have kind of started to get the offensive stuff. Look, I don't think that you always have to jump to this. I do think the Paolo conversation is unavoidable.
Oh yeah,
because if you're this good with Dez and Franz, and you were that bad with Paolo, and Paolo continues to just not to be a volume shooter who can't shoot. And I think Paolo doesn't get enough credit for his defense, which was questioned coming into the draft, for his rebounding, which was questioned coming into the draft, and his passing, which was questioned coming into the draft. He's actually really good on all 3 of those areas. But you have to put the ball in the bucket if you're going to have the ball as much as he does. And there's just like, there is this underwriting, like, for a while, it was like, are we sure that he's the best player and it's not Franz Wagner? And now we're at the point where like you kind of have to be like, yeah, it's Franz Wagner. Like he's their best player. And that just makes it really uncomfortable, especially given the extension. I don't know where this goes, but it's gonna get a little uncomfortable if Paolo comes back and they crater again. Those questions are going to get cacophonous in how loud they'll be.
I mean, 100%. Like I knew we were going to talk about the Magic. The first page I opened, I bet you can guess what it is PBP stats, Wowie combinations. What's the on-off for Paolo this year, right? Because it's a huge part of their turnaround is he got hurt and wasn't playing a little bit in this. They're 7-2 without him this season. Their net rating is 3.7 points better this season with him off the floor. And it's perfectly what you said, Matt. Their defense stays about the same. He's a good defensive player. Their offense is actually what drops to cause that gap. And granted, Orlando Robinson is one of the 9 guys ahead of him. He's played 3 games. He is 10th on the Magic in true shooting percentage. Obviously, his volume is very high, but that is not like how you want to end a possession with your 10th best efficient thing, right? I'm not saying that he shouldn't shoot at all. He's a really good player. He often gets caught with their bench groups, and that hurts his on-offs. Like, these are very uncontextualized stats, but they're not painting a good picture, those uncontextualized stats. That's for sure.
I will call your pbpstats.com and raiseyouDataballer.com because it's got this.
Better biz, too.
Banchero and Wagner are only plus 0.5 on the season together. Franz is plus 2.3. But in 123 minutes this season, Banchero actually had a 120 offensive rating on court. That surprises me.
Good.
And a plus 7.5. So what if the problem is not Paolo? What if the problem is Paolo and Franz?
I mean, if I'm going to push back on the Paolo Banchero stuff here, they did win 3 of their last 4 games before Paolo got hurt. The turnaround was already starting to happen with Paolo healthy, and their best lineup this year is their starting group with Paolo. It's outscoring teams by 20 points per 100 possessions almost. So it's not as if the Paolo minutes have been terrible. And like Tony E said, like there's some noise in there with some of the lineups that he's been with that kind of muck things up here. But that's a really interesting point. And it's a point that I think Celtics fans were talking about with like the Tatum, Jalen Brown stuff maybe earlier in their tenure. The question is, can Franz and Paolo eventually figure it out the way that those 2 wings did? Or do they not have that skill set that can complement each other? And do they eventually have to figure that part of it out? That's interesting. But right now, to me, I think the difference in Orlando is Jalen Suggs. As soon as that minutes restriction came off and he was playing good basketball, it just felt like their whole season turned around. And he's always like one of these guys that are involved in their most impactful lineups.
He is such a dog, man. Like he makes so many extra plays for them where it's like a lot of it is stuff like there are a lot of players in the league that will gamble, but if they miss, it's like, well, I tried. Jalen's like gamble and then scramble on your hands and knees to get back in front and recover defensively. His passing, he is so good at recognizing the gaps in the defense and finding that cutter. Like he just opens things up so well. Like, having him and Franz as 2 of these kind of creators. I love Jalen Suggs' game.
He's also a good point guard, which matters a lot.
Yeah.
As good as Bane is, the thing holding me back from being like really in on the Magic like everybody else before the season was just question marks about Suggs' health, because like point guard play is such a lead ball handler play, I guess, is such a big floor raiser. And so it's not shocking to me that actually having a good guy who's like played with all these dudes and knows how to connect the pieces back really helped them. And his assist rate is by far the highest on their team, by far. He's got to clean up his turnovers, but that has really helped their offense be like player to player and not station to station in a way that has been really huge for them. And he can shoot.
Jalen Suggs has a lot of Nemhard in him.
He does.
A lot of Nemhard.
Love those kinds of point guards. All right, last question here before we get out. The Orlando Magic, they're 4th in offensive rating and 4th in defensive rating over the last 10 games. We've already talked about the winning and the moving up the Eastern Conference standings. Do we believe that this is more Orlando Magic than what the start of the season was for the Orlando Magic, when everybody was kind of like, oh my God, concerns, panic meter, all that kind of stuff? Matt, I'll start with you.
Yeah, just because like the first 3 weeks of the season are just extended training camp, and you need to give them time. Now, I still have some concerns. Like there's just been like a lot of, it is very loud how much people around the league talk about Paolo not loving Jamal Mosley's offensive schemes. Now, like they've overhauled a lot of that with God Sham God. So I don't know how much of that is like still true, but like that's going to be like kind of the question here. You're never as good as you are at your peak. You're never as bad as you are at your worst. Like the NBA season is so long. Like look at the Cavs, who are just like, what a mess. The Cavs are nope, handle business versus the Pacers. Just trucked them. No, really not a competitive game. So like that stuff happens. I'm excited if we can keep these teams healthy, which of course we can't because we don't get nice things. But like last night's Hawks Pistons game was awesome. And like Hawks, Pistons, Magic, Heat, those four make for such a compelling contrast of styles, strengths, and approaches. I'm really excited for the East playoffs if we can get these teams all the way to April.
I think that the Magic can be fourth in defense for an extended amount of time. I think that's a real part of what they've done in these last 10 games. But that offensive number being fourth feels a bit optimistic and rosy. So I think Matt's on the nose with you're never as bad as your worst and as high as your best points, and they'll settle in 10th to 15th on offense and maybe top 5 in defense. That is realistic to me, but that's a really good team if you hit both of those strokes. So they look pretty good right now.
The Nuggets lost another player to injury last night. Are injuries threatening what could be a title contender in Denver? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On NBA Daily. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Prize Picks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats, fantasy scores, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy. The early payout feature is a great bonus. When your lineup starts strong, you can get an option to cash out early. And the new stacks feature lets you choose the same player up to 3 times in one lineup, like more on a quarterback's passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards. Deposits and withdrawals are quick and easy, which keeps everything flowing. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team. Check out Locked On Lakers, Locked On Suns, and Locked On Magic for more on today's top stories. You're also going to want to check in on Locked On Nuggets. The Nuggets lost Jamal Murray to an ankle injury during last night's loss to the Dallas Mavericks. They're already playing without Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown. Matt, as one of the hosts of Locked On Nuggets, what's the latest on the injury front for the Denver Nuggets right now?
Well, of course, as every coach says, they've never met a trainer in their lives. They have not spoken to them. They don't know who they are. They don't even really never encountered one. They don't even know who that is. What's a trainer? So look, there's no official update on it. It was not good. He left at halftime. Clearly was not doing good. Like he asked out early in the middle of a play, came back in, played one possession, and had to ask back out again. We'll wait on the MRI. From what I understand, there's no concern about like disaster about it being like something extremely major. It looks like it's just like a bad ankle injury, but if that's 1 to 2 weeks, man, you're missing 3 starters. Their defense cannot function without Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon. Cannot. It is destroyed right now. They are wet mashed potatoes. It is awful defensively and offensively. This was the one area that a lot of Nuggets fans circled as like, hey, we need another point guard. And they just don't have the guys. They do not have another ball handler. Like Christian Brown was counted on for being a little bit of like, oh, if we need to, Christian can bring the ball up. Now he's not available for another couple weeks. It's like Jalen Pickett time. Julian Strother is out because he's got a back injury that is so bad. He's only doing like mobility exercises. He can barely get out of bed. Like, they are decimated right now. It's going to get way worse for the Nuggets before it gets better.
Well, that's not good. I mean, it's just been weird to see the Nuggets go from like, oh my God, this team is a buzzsaw. They're humming. They're beating everybody. I know injuries are the reason, but they have like been bad. Like Dallas is the worst offense league. It just lit them up. And I wouldn't think that losing some of these guys would make them that horrible on defense all of a sudden.
Yeah, no. Like, I want to be very clear on this. It is not like you can't look at this and be like, well, injuries. If Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown played, would the defense be better? Yes, because I can point to you stuff like they understand matchup zone better. Like last night they were running matchup zone and guys were just running all over the place. Like it was just like, what is happening here? Their X outs are terrible. It's all these like little things that guys know how to do, but they have to be able to do this. You have to be physical enough to stop point of attack. So much of this is like they don't trust each other. This is their problem last year. They don't trust each other. And when you don't trust your teammates to guard one-on-one, you want to help them. Like, it's not about like you hanging them out to dry. You're like, oh, I don't want you to get beat, so I'm going to help down. Well, guess what happens when you leave your guy? Your guy's open to shoot threes, the most valuable shot right now in basketball. And like, that's what they keep running into, is this over helping to try and compensate. And I will be very clear on this. They are not just compensating for the guys on the perimeter. They are compensating for Nikola Jokic, who is in deep drop, who is ineffective and is barely contesting. So like Jokic doesn't get a pass here either. Their defense is a systemic failure that is exacerbated by their injuries.
So they're the worst defense in the league over the last 5 games. They're 28th over the last 10 games. They've dropped now to 16th for the season. They're not going to be, to your point, Matt, they're never going to be an elite defense. That's not sort of their game. But when they won the title in 2023, they were top 10-ish, right? And we could see them kind of dial it up a notch in the possessions that mattered.
They were not. That's the funny part, is when they won the title.
Weren't they like 14th or something?
They were 18th schedule adjusted. Yeah. Like, that's what's funny about it, is like, and they actually taught me this, which is that in the playoffs, you have to be able to solve defensive problems more than you have to have a great defense. And like, this is the opposite of the problem with Rudy Gobert, who does not get played off the floor nearly as much as people act like. But like, there are limitations that Rudy causes. You can't solve certain problems with Rudy on the floor. You have to be able to build a defense that can solve problems once you run into them in the playoffs specifically. Denver at full strength can do that, but they got to get there first with the top 3 seed, or the road's going to be too difficult anyway. Okay,
so that's I guess the next logical step here is when you're talking about a Nuggets team whose goal is to win a championship, to compete for a title. If we want to do the panic meter thing, I guess we could do that part of it, Matt. But like, is it just, hey, we know what we're capable of when we have Brown and Gordon out there, and when we're playing at our best, and in the playoffs, we'll dial it up?
Yeah, I mean, a good comparison is the 2011 Mavericks were like came out and were humming and looked like,
I don't remember that team.
They were awesome. The first 2 months, host of Locked On Heat has a memory problem.
Didn't realize what the joke was there.
Yeah, it took me a second. But like, they were awesome to begin, and then Caron Butler went out with injury, and then Dirk got hurt, and for like 2 months it was like, oh, the Mavericks are just like another team, and then they got everything together except for Caron at the end of the year, and then they went on the run. Right? It's the same kind of deal here. We're gonna talk about the Nuggets as far as like, this is like, how bad is this? Like, what's gonna happen? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's gonna get, because we amp up this pressure. But like, it's a long season. They'll get better when Aaron Gordon gets back. They'll get better when Christian Brown gets back. They'll get better when Jamal Murray gets back. And they'll get better at some of this stuff defensively anyway. It's not like they've like lost every game. They've lost every home game for some reason. But they're on the road for a little bit. We'll see how it goes.
Last thing here, and I want to call this new segment, following up on something we talked about yesterday. We talked about the Thunder and whether or not they can win 74-plus games and this 12-game win streak that they're on. They play the Golden State Warriors in Golden State tonight. No Steph Curry. The Thunder are 12-point favorites on the road. Tony, we didn't get your take on it. What do you think about this Thunder team, and what about this line tonight?
Yeah, I mean, once they were, what were they, 18-1 when J-Dub came back? Like, I felt like a broken record, but everybody was saying the right thing. They're doing this without their second best player, right? Like, they're clearly among the best teams ever. And I personally, I haven't watched every Thunder game, but I put that a lot on the Chet leap. Chet has been like all-star level-esque this season on both ends. He just understands spacing better and where to be and where his spots are going to be. And his defense is still amazing. So now they always have like 3 studs on the floor, and all their role players are so good. I mean, they're amazing, right? There's a chance they win 70-plus games. I agreed with the consensus in the offseason that they'd probably like take it easy. No, they're just better than everybody by a mile. And their only loss like came at the final seconds in Portland, right? So yeah, they're legitimately amazing and could get a top X pick number that's below 10. So Yikes! Very scary
over the
for
next 2
everybody
years
else.
potentially. Matt, this 12-point spread. What do you make of it?
So the Warriors can win this game. It's at any given night in the NBA, even against the great teams still lose to randos. Like go back and look at the 97 Bulls. They lost to like Toronto, who was terrible that year. But the fact that this is 12 without Steph, and I'll just tell you, if you're like, well, it's without Steph. Okay. Like Steph's worth the most you can possibly give him is 6. I would have it around 5 is where I would put it. Is that he's worth about 5 points at the spread based off his production this season. The fact that this is this wide and like I make it 12.3 is, I'm sorry, you're not good enough, Warriors. Like look at your salary, look at your payroll. You traded for Jimmy Butler. You're supposed to be like this juggernaut. You're not juggernaut. You're supposed to be like one of these teams that's in the conversation with Houston and Denver as like teams that could threaten Golden State. And they are 12-point favorites in your building when you have 2 days rest. Like this is, from a market perspective, it is deeply worrisome that the Warriors are this far off of the mark.
You can't expect the Warriors to play well after the hangover of welcoming back Kevon Looney, Matt. That is a big ask. That is a big ask.
I love
Tribute
Kevon
video.
Looney. He's so good.
I guess last thing here, since we're doing the segment of things that we talked about earlier, are the Warriors in the same conversation as the Lakers even?
No. Like this is
They
a
can't be,
500
right?
team. Like this is a 500. This is a 500 team that sometimes Steph bails out.
Mhm.
That's who the Warriors are. They're a 500 team, and sometimes Steph bails them out. They do not have enough offensive firepower. They do not guard. The Jimmy Butler quotes keep like ticking up in terms of his frustration. Got paid though. Got his money.
He's cracking me up. He says the same thing every game. We don't care enough. We're not trying hard enough on defense, but he says it a little more intensely every time. Yeah, they're not even the same class. Like the Lakers can have Luka off the floor and score a bunch of points because Reeves has been really good, and they have LeBron back now. I don't know if you heard from our first segment. And the same thing goes the other way. Luka can carry when Reeves is off the floor. So like, yeah, their floor is so much higher than the Warriors. Like
that's not the concern. That's the concern here. Is like I just can't get around this. They're 20th in schedule adjusted offense. They have no firepower.
Yeah, no.
Like Steph Curry is not enough to get you the firepower that you need.
And the role guys they hoped would be good on offense, Kuminga, Hield, etc., have not. Just basically outside of Moody, none of them have been very good.
Yeah.
Those comments from Jimmy Butler might continue if we know anything about Jimmy Butler.
No,
We'll see what happens.
not Jimmy.
Of course not. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA Daily, wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thank you to Matt and Tony for their expertise today. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA Daily.